Have you ever wondered how cloud providers like AWS handle massive amounts of data with high availability and scalability? Today, we are diving into Ceph, a powerful open source storage solution designed specifically for that. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Nikhil Kumar, and in this video, I will show you how to deploy Ceph cluster from scratch. Let's start with a quick overview of Ceph architecture. At its core, Ceph is composed of several key components that work together to manage and store data efficiently. At the top of the Ceph architecture is the client, which represents any application or service interacting with Ceph cluster for data storage and retrieval. Below that, we have a monitor. Monitor nodes responsible for maintaining the cluster's health and status. Then we have a manager. Manager nodes are responsible for adding the management and monitoring functionalities. It tracks performance and resource usage to aid in cluster orchestration. Then we have OSDs. OSDs are the main component where the actual data is stored. It handles the actual data storage, ensuring redundancy and efficiency by storing, replicating, and balancing data. And OSD stands for Object Storage Daemons. Then we have a MDS, that is our metadata servers. It's specifically for the Ceph FS. It manages file system metadata, optimizing file-based operation. Finally, the RADOS gateway. RADOS gateway provides an S3 and Swift compatible object storage interface, allowing Ceph to serve as an object storage solution. Together, these components form a scalable and self-healing storage solution. Now that we have understood the basics, let's dive into the demo. I will walk you through setting up the infrastructure on AWS and deploying a Ceph cluster. For this setup, I have already created 3 EC2 instances using T2 medium specification, each with 5 GB EBS volumes already attached. This configuration serves as an example. Feel free to adapt it to fit your specific needs and environment. I am using the Ubuntu AMIs here, but a similar setup can be done on on-premise or virtual machines as well. In a real setup, you would first create your instances and set the root passwords. I have completed that step already. So let's move directly into configuring each instances. So this is my all 3 instances, node 1, node 2, and node 3. First, we need to set up the hostname on each of the node. Why we need to set up a hostname? Basically, it will help us to easily identify each server within the cluster. So for that, we have a command hostname ctl set-hostname, and I'm giving one server1.example.com to the node 1, and I'm going to use the same command on the other 2 nodes to set the hostname over there. And this node will be server2.example.com, and node 3 will be server3.example.com. Next, we need to add entries for each server in the /etc/hosts file on each instances to enable seamless communication by the hostname. So for that, I just need to capture the IP address of the node 1, 216/etc/hosts, and at the end of the file, we need to create the entries. That is server1.example.com. I'm giving a full FQDN as well as the short name as well, and node 2 server2 IP address is 159, FQDN server2.example.com, and server2, and node 3 IP8. Let me check that. IP8 server3.example.com server3. Save and close. This will allow each instances to recognize the others by host name. Before copy pasting the file into the other nodes, let's set up a SSH keys between the nodes. So for that, I am generating a SSH key here, and we have a command ssh-keygen. Enter. SSH key got created successfully. Now we need to copy it to the other nodes. So for that, we are going to use command ssh-copy-id and the hostname of server2. It will ask for the password, yes, and the password. Similarly, we are going to set up the SSH keys on the server 3 as well, yes, and password. And we need to set up SSH keys on the server 1 because we are going to use a Ansible to do some pre-flight check, because we are going to use a community version of Ceph. So for that we are going to use a playbook which is provided by the community, and for that we need to set up a SSH key for the passwordless authentication via Ansible, so that Ansible can directly install packages or perform their action on the top of all the 3 nodes. So I'm going to use SSH copy ID on server 1 as well, so we don't need to enter the password. Now we are going to copy these files onto the server 2 or 3 without using the manual way. So we are going to use a SCP here, scp/etc/hosts, and the server 2, and the location is same, /etc/hosts, and it got copied successfully without asking the password because we have enabled or copied the SSH keys between the nodes. And if we see those entries here, we can find out those entries are already there because we have copied the file. Now, as I mentioned that we are going to use a community version of Ceph, so we need Ansible for that. So I'm going to install the Ansible as well. It will take some couple of minutes to install this, and we are going to use a community version of Ceph. This is the repository for the same. We need to clone this repository. It contains all the playbook which will be used for the deployment. So I'm going to clone this. Let me clear out the screen because installation got completed for the Ansible 2. And I'm going to clone this repository. The repository got cloned. And let's go into the directory. And now we need to create the host file within the Cephadm-Ansible directory to define our Ceph cluster nodes. So for that, I'm going to create a host inventory file, and I'm going to use a host name of each of the nodes. Server 1, server 2, server 3. That's why I made an entry into the etc host file, so that our machines are able to recognize each other with the host name itself. Inventory file got created successfully. Now, before bootstrapping the Ceph cluster, let's run a pre-flight check to ensure everything is ready. So I'm going to use a command ansible-playbook-i to specify the inventory. Entry file name is host in our case, and there's a playbook called cephadm-preflight.yml. So this particular playbook will perform a pre-flight checks and the installation of all the mandatory packages which is required for the Ceph cluster bootstrap. So this is the playbook which is provided by the community itself. Let me run this command. So Ansible playbook is performing an action on all the 3 nodes. So it's trying to prevent Ceph certificates and installing the mandatory packages and checking all the required packages are there or not, or all the repository are configured or not. If some repositories are not configured, it will configure that particular repository too on all the nodes. So it will take some couple of minutes to perform their action. As you can see, it configured the Ceph community repository as well. Now it's installing the prerequisites packages, that is the Ceph common packages, which will be providing a Cephadm command and all the Ceph utilities for all the nodes. And if you want to understand how Ansible works at the backend, so I've already created a video on the same. So I will add a link in the description so that you can refer the same. Now the pre-flight check completes. We are ready to bootstrap our Ceph cluster. First, let's create a configuration file, which is our Ceph configuration specification. This file defines the type of services we want to deploy in our Ceph cluster, along with where each service should be located. So I'm going to create one file, initial_config.yml. First, we need to specify the host information. So on which host we are going to deploy the Ceph cluster. For that we are having a different service type. Service type is our host, and then we need to specify the IP address. IP address we have already created in our etc host file, so we can get it from there. 216 is our node 1 and the host name of that particular host. So server1.example.com. Similarly, we need to specify the other two nodes. So I'm going to copy paste this particular block of code and paste it here. And this will be similarly for the third node. And IP address of the second node 159, and server 2, and IP address of the third node 8, and server 3. This information tells Ceph where the servers are and what they are named, making it easier to manage the multiple nodes. So in this way we can manage multiple nodes and specify multiple nodes. Next we have a monitor services. The monitor service is critical in Ceph because it keeps track of the cluster state. Here I'm going to specify all the 3 nodes on which our monitor service will be running. So for that we have a service type mon, and the placement is a keyword on which particular node we need to place this particular service, and host, and it will be deployed on the top of all the 3 nodes. So server 1, server 2, and server 3. Then we need to add manager service. The manager service is responsible for managing and monitoring the cluster, providing additional insights like performance metrics. So for that we are going to use the same keyword service type. Service type is mgr, that is manager, and we are going to use the same placement and the host information because we are going to deploy manager service on the top of all the 3 nodes. It's done. And lastly we need to define the OSD service, which stands for Object Storage Daemon. OSDs are responsible for storing data, handling replication and recovery. We have already attached a 5 GB EBS volume on each of the nodes. So to identify which is the path of that, so we can use lsplk-fp command. So we can fetch the information dev/xvdb, and if you're going to use the same command on this node as well, so it's with the same name. So we just need to pass this information along with the host information. So for that the service type is OSD. In OSD configuration we need to specify the service ID, that is default drive group, and then we need to specify the placement, that is all the nodes, and this is the node information. Then we need to specify the data devices. Data devices we checked from the lsplk command. We need to specify the path here. Then paths, we can specify the multiple paths in the list. So this is the path, this is same and common for all the 3 nodes. So it's done. Now our configuration file is ready. Let's move on to the Ceph deployment. We will use the Cephadm bootstrap command, which is a one-line command that bootstraps our entire Ceph cluster based on our configuration. So for that I am going to use a command. Let me write that command. Let me clear out the screen first. Cephadm bootstrap and --mon -ip, and the mon IP address, that is our primary node IP address, and this is 216. Then we need to specify the configuration file apply-spec and initial_config.yml is the file name. Then we need to specify the dashboard password, that is -initial-dashboard-password, and I'm going to use a Ceph is a password, Cephadm. Now I'm going to specify the other parameter, that is dashboard password no update, which will not ask for the resetting of the password for the first login. When we are going to log in for the first time on the dashboard, it will ask for the password reset. So we are disabling that as well. So no update is for use for that. Then we need to use the allow FQDN. This flag allows us to use a fully qualified domain names for the host. This is useful in larger environments where servers are identified by their domain names rather than just IP address. So for that we have a parameter called --allow -fqdn -hostname. That's all, and press enter. So first, Ceph checked all the required dependencies like Podman, LVM2, and the time synchronization services are installed and running on the server. Then it initializing the cluster by setting up the first monitor and creating necessary cryptographic keys for secure communication. Now it's pulling the image and starting creating a keys. And now it's starting creating a monitor services. Monitor, manager, and OSD service are deployed based on the initial configuration file which we have created. And Ceph also verifies that each service is working correctly before moving to the next one. As you can see, it's deploying the services and also checks the services is running or not before moving to the next step. Finally, it completes the setup by additional services like Prometheus and Grafana and alerting modules, which provides valuable monitoring and alerting capabilities. Now it's setting up the dashboard. It set up the password which we specified into the command itself. Now our Ceph cluster is ready, it got deployed, and to access that we need to use our public IP address. Right now it's not in our etc host file of the Windows machine, so we are going to use our public IP address of the node 1. This is a public IP address, and if we go with the port number 8443 which is specified here, we are going to use the 8443 port number, and it will be on the HTTPS. Now we can able to see the dashboard of the Ceph. Admin is the username, password that is Cephadm, which we specified in the command, and we are able to log into the Ceph cluster. And if we see the health of it, it shows 3 nodes, 1 monitor and 2 manager. Right now it's processing all the information, so it will take some time to come up or with all the components. Right now if you see 3 OSD, 1 is up and 3 in down, and if we see cluster state is in the green now, and if we click on the host information, it will show all the node information here. And server1.example.com is our admin node from where we have deployed our Ceph cluster. And we can see this is the raw capacity, this is the total memory, and if we see the physical device or disk, these are the disks which we specified in the initial configuration file, and size is 5 GB because we have attached the 5 GB EPS volume to that. Refresh it. So we can see 5 GB EPS volume is being used here. And if we see the OSDs, this is the object storage daemon, and this is the 5 GB which is coming from the EPS volume. Now let's take a look at the services running in the Ceph cluster using the ceph org ls command. So ceph org, let me clear the screen first. Clear ceph org ls. So it will show the list of services which is running on the top of this particular cluster which is being deployed by the Ceph. And if we see, Grafana is already deployed, and if you can see that node exporter Prometheus is also there. So it already configured the Grafana dashboard, and it's having all the things set up. And if you want to use this, we can use the same IP address, but the port number is 3000. So let me copy this, and port number 3000. And here is our Grafana dashboard. So it's loading the Grafana. because it's all the components are being deployed by the Cephadm bootstrap command. And if you want to see the dashboard, if you click on the dashboard and browse, Ceph-dashboard is the folder there, and we can see there are multiple dashboards are being created by the Ceph itself. And if you see the Ceph cluster dashboard, this is the health. It shows the OSDs, monitor, managers. One is in the active and two is in the standby, 3 monitors and OSDs. And if we explore more, there are different information about the host details. These are the host information with the CPU utilization, RAM, network load, server 1 disk. And if we see more, there's a lot of information which is been coming from the Prometheus node exporter. And we have a dashboard already created in the Grafana itself. And if we see the OSD overview, these are the OSD information. This dashboard is a powerful tool for understanding how our Ceph cluster is performing in real time. Having Grafana integrating directly with Ceph gives us a full visibility into the cluster health and usage, making it easy to monitor and manage at scale. And that's it. We now have a functional Ceph cluster with monitoring and management capabilities. This setup is flexible, allowing us to scale by adding more storage devices or nodes in the future. If you need more guidance on setting up a Ceph cluster, I have written a detailed blog on the same, which you can find the link in the description below. You can also find my Ansible playlist if you like to go deep dive into setting up Ansible and managing Ansible playbooks. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe for more technical tutorials. If you have any question, drop them in the comments below. See you in the next video. Have a nice day.